Hey, it's Netta, and I'm so excited to tell you that my brand new book, Break Free from Sugar Cravings, is now available for pre-order in ebook format. In other words, when you head on over to Amazon, whatever country you're in, and search for Break Free from Sugar Cravings in the search bar, or just search with my name, Netta Gorman, you'll be able to pre-order the ebook version at a super low price for a limited time. And the paperback version and the audiobook version of Break Free from Sugar Cravings will be available soon. But to get a special price on the ebook version, head on over to Amazon today. Welcome to the Life After Sugar podcast. The podcast that's not just about sugar, but about your relationship with it, and also with food, and especially with yourself. So if you want to discover your life after sugar and hear inspiring stories from all kinds of people who also cut out sugar in their way, at their pace, for their own reasons, this is the podcast for you. Because when you take away the sugar, you can finally discover the real sweetness in your life. I'm your host, Netta Gorman. And just before we get to today's episode, I'd like to tell you about some free resources that you can get to help you break free from sugar cravings and stop emotional eating. Because if you have all the best intentions to reduce or cut sugar, but cravings are making you fall off the wagon, then go to the podcast description along with this episode and click on the link to download your 5 tips to start getting rid of cravings, and also to do the cravings quiz so that you can become more aware of what triggers your cravings. Those 2 free resources are in the podcast description along with this episode. You can also find them on aftersugarclub.com. And come on over to find me on social media. Check out the Life After Sugar Facebook page and subscribe to the Life After Sugar YouTube channel, as well as my Instagram account at My Life After Sugar, so that you can see that it's perfectly possible to live a happy and active life, even if you don't eat sugar. So today I'm joined by John, a former sugar and carb addict who went from eating half a box of sugary cereal for breakfast every morning to training for a Boston Marathon at age 50. John shares his personal journey from prediabetes and morbid obesity to becoming a metabolically flexible endurance athlete, and how John's experience inspired him to help others. So here's my chat with John. So today I'm here with John. And John, can you tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and what you used to eat when you were a child?
Sure, Netta. So nice to meet you. So good to be here and talking to everybody in your audience. Congratulations on well over 200 episodes. That is
Thank you.
amazing. As you know, most podcasts wither and die before they even get to 10 episodes. So congratulations. You must
Thank
have
you.
a really dedicated audience, and I'm happy to be speaking with them today. Before the show, you told me you're going to ask me about what I ate as a child, and I immediately went, oh, because often think about the habits, bad and good, mostly bad, that were developed in my early childhood. And God bless my mom, but I don't think she knew a thing about a thing back then in the 70s and 80s when I was a child. And, I think she also kind of was taken by new technology and new modern things at the time. So we ate a lot of packaged goods, a lot of Hungry Man frozen dinners and TV dinners where we literally sat at the TV with the TV trays with our little foil contraptions and peeled back. And I used to think it was such a treat. And funny story is I was telling my 12 or 13-year-old daughter recently about this, and we said, let's go to the grocery store and get a Hungry Man dinner for nostalgia, for old time's sake. So we went and we bought 3 for my wife and my youngest. And we bought the Hungry Man dinners, we put them in the freezer, and we never ate them
No?
because no, because even though we bought them and put them in the freezer and I was excited about the nostalgia, our eating habits today are so far dramatically removed from that I couldn't even stomach the idea of putting it in the microwave and putting it in front of my 13-year-old daughter. So I think back also on what I ate for breakfast. And man, it was a smorgasbord of Count Chocula, which I don't think they even make anymore, Golden Grams cereal, honeycomb cereal, anything I could shake out of a box, put into a bowl, and pour some milk over. And then now that I've learned about portion sizing, I think back and think to myself, holy cow. I was not eating your 2/3 cup or half cup serving each time. I was shaking out half the box into the bowl and eating it with milk. And looking back on it, I was eating 6, 7, 800 calories of nothing but refined sugar and carbohydrates for breakfast every morning, washing it down with some orange juice. And maybe as we got older, we started eating bagels for breakfast.
Well, okay. Can
And
I just stop you and ask you where this happened? Like, where did you
sure,
grow
that
up?
was Fort Wayne, Indiana, is
Okay.
where that was. Midwestern United States, 70s and 80s. And, you know, let me give you another example of just how out of control and wackadoodle it was.
Mhm.
We used to eat this thing called graham cracker cereal, and not like the cereal that comes in the box, but actually take a package of graham crackers, the whole package, break them up into small pieces, and pour hot milk over them and eat that. And then one day when I looked at the serving stuff on it as an adult, 2 graham crackers was a serving, 300 calories for 2 graham crackers. And we would put like 10 or 12 in each bowl of cereal, and it wasn't enough. And I'd go back and get seconds.
Hmm.
Or we would have endless Pop Tarts. And this carried through for me into high school, even when I should have maybe begun to know better at snack time, like around 9 a.m. I'd go down to the cafeteria and they had for sale Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pies,
Hmm.
green frosted, quote unquote pastry filled with yellow pudding. And I used to eat 2 of those at snack at school every single day. No one was talking about sugar being bad. And in fact, the only like the first earliest like diet concepts I had in my mind, or just nutrition concepts at all, were fat, low fat, everything low fat. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden one day in our house there was nothing but the green Snackwells boxes everywhere. And looking back on that as an adult, I know now as well that sure they took out the fat, but man, they just pumped it full of sugar and they
Exactly.
tasted amazing and they couched it as health food and you just ate them and ate them and ate them. Man, this is healthy. It comes in a green box.
Hmm.
So from a very early age, I was really pummeled with sugar and carbohydrates and processed foods. And then when we'd have dinner, it would be heavy on pasta and light on protein.
Okay. All
And that's it took me getting obese and extraordinarily overweight. Probably I'm 6'4". I was probably like 270, 280, 290 even, with no muscle mass. And I you know got to a breaking point where I had to finally make a change. And interestingly enough, the change that I made at the time was hooking up with a pre-packaged food service for ketogenic meals.
Oh, really? All right. And how
Yeah.
did you find out about keto?
I didn't even really know too much about it until I started researching the meal service, and then they had this option. And I think around then it was sort of like Atkins time.
Hmm.
And I remember one time going out to dinner and seeing a guy that I had known for years who had lost a bunch of weight. And I was like, holy cow, man, how'd you do that? He goes, well, my doctor's got me on this thing called Atkins. And he would tell me that and we've come a long way since then, but he's like, instead of eating bread or carbs or whatever, I'll have like cheese and salami or something for dinner, or cheese and like summer sausage for dinner. And I now know that like summer sausage and salami probably aren't the best protein choices. But at any rate, it got him off the sugar and it got him in a place where he had lost a ton of weight. And so I gave the keto a shot, and it had profound impact on my life. I mean, the rate of weight loss was tremendous. I slimmed down into, my fighting shape at that time was probably like around 220, and I felt really good. I struggled with it being sustainable for me personally, and went back, and of course when I went back, you know I didn't know the right proper constraints, and so I gained all the way back again.
And when you
But
say you
that's
went
my
back, do you mean you went back to eating refined carbs?
Yeah, but it was definitely, but it was more of just like probably more of just like a free for all, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
but
How old were
but
you then when you
those
sort of,
that was my early 30s. Yeah,
okay.
I'm 50 now. So that was like 20 plus years ago where I learned about that. Even a little bit more, 25 years ago, where I first heard about Atkins and heard about low carb.
And what made it feel unsustainable for you?
Well, I just really like the sugars, and I like the carbs, and I like pasta, and I like rice, and I like cake, and I like cookies, and I like chips, and I like pretzels, and I like juice, and I like beer and alcohol, and I like all those things.
Yeah.
That's that's probably that's
Yeah.
probably why it was unsustainable for me.
Wow.
I mean, I was so deep in ketosis that I would use the urine sticks, and it was like dark purple, and I had very distinct breath,
Yeah.
and like I was deep, deep, deep in ketosis. And we can circle back to all this, but one thing it had a lasting impact on me is that I've trained my body to be a fat burning metabolism. And I recently got a VO2 max and a metabolic test done, where I went into the lab and I ran on the treadmill, and they analyzed every single one of my breaths over 45 minutes, and they could determine what energy source I was using for my exercise. And when I gave the results to my endurance coach, he was absolutely blown away. He said that I have the fat oxidation levels of an elite endurance athlete, of which I clearly am not.
Okay.
And he's like, you're either somebody who's got elite genetics, or you're deep in ketosis, which he knew I was not. And so it is a hypothesis of ours that the time I have spent in ketosis, which was multiple times that I've actually gone back to zero carb, wholly protein and fat diet,
Mm.
that I'm extremely metabolically flexible.
Yeah.
And so I can make the transition from sugar burning to fat burning very easily. And using the fat oxidation for energy has been a real sort of tailwind for me in my endurance training, because you only have so much glycogen to burn through while you're exercising, but all of us have basically an infinite amount of fat that we carry with us while we're exercising. And so it leads to me having very steady runs and great endurance, and an ability to even, train on an empty stomach, and really rely on that fat oxidation switch. And I think that was a revelation that confirmed a lot of thinking that I had along the way, which was, for me personally, at least, continuous ketosis wasn't exactly what I wanted as a personal lifestyle. But what I have trained in my body is the metabolic flexibility. And I think the metabolic flexibility is a huge advantage for me and for most people if you can train it. It's not something that we all have innately, but the capability is there. You have to train it like a muscle, and
Yeah.
we will shift between ketosis and sugar burning even throughout the day, depending on whether or not you've eaten, or what your circumstances are. And
Absolutely.
so that's just one of the lessons that I've seen, from back then, that have revealed itself today.
And can I just stop you for a second and say what I can see in your case is that your body responds really well to ketosis or cutting sugar and refined carbs. But from what I can tell, it's like the unsustainability of it that you were telling me about comes from inside your head, and like your kind of memories and your tastes of all the other have carb heavy, sugar heavy foods. And that's what I find a lot with the people that I help is that physically, when we cut sugar, like you did, it's all good. It's actually not a big deal. But then the brain gets caught up in it and it all goes to pot.
Yeah, if you were living in isolation without birthday parties and
Right.
events and wives that like to bake and all
Mhm.
this stuff, and all you had to eat were animal fats and proteins, you would be sustainable and you would live a very healthy and happy life. One of the earliest influences on me when it came to ketosis and ketogenic thinking at all was Dr. Peter Attia, and this was way before he became Mr. Peter Attia, who he is today. He himself had been experimenting with ketosis back then. This was like early to mid 2000s time period, maybe like 2010 or so. And he made reference to an original text of a ship's captain who led an expedition into the Arctic, and their ship became ice locked, and they ran out of food, and they were all terrified of getting scurvy and dying and being sick. And what they ended up doing was eating nothing but seal, and they ate nothing but seal blubber and seal, muscle protein. And he noted in his journal, and this is like the late 1800s, like how remarkable their health was, and that no one got scurvy and no one got sick, and they were all in great shape, and they all lost weight, and they all were well sustained. And it was probably, whether he knew it or not, one of the best discoveries that he made on his journey, that then was cited many, decades later,
Mhm.
as evidence of people being put in a forced experiment to eat strictly nothing but animal fat and protein, and to see what the outcome was on their health and their performance.
I want to take a quick break to say that if this is your first time here, then welcome and thank you for listening to this podcast. And whether you're new or a regular and you haven't yet rated or reviewed this podcast, could I ask you to scroll down and tap on the stars to rate this podcast, and also to write a short review to let me know how this podcast is helping you in your life after sugar. I love reading your reviews. And when you rate and review this podcast, not only does it encourage me to continue making new episodes, but it also helps to share this podcast and have more people see it, so that we can help more people feel better and lose weight with less sugar. So again, thank you for rating and reviewing this podcast and for spreading the word about sugar. Yeah. And again, that is biologically impressive at how the body reacts to ketosis brought along by animal fat and protein. And yet we live in the real world, or in air quotes, real world in the United States with, with the food context. I'm not sure how real that is, where it feels like the facts themselves, or the diet itself, as it were, is not unsustainable, but the context in which we live makes it unsustainable.
Yeah. And I think economics play a part into it. Now, there are certainly ways to eat sugar-free on a budget. There certainly are. I think for a lot of people, it is not entirely obvious right off the bat the easiest way to do that. When people think of eating nothing but protein, they're like, I gotta buy ribeyes every single night. That's gonna
Mm,
break the bank. I mean, but there are certainly lower priced, slower cooked meats and stuff that you can put in the crock pot, and that you can roast, and that take a little bit longer to cook maybe, that can make it a little bit more tolerable on the pocketbook.
yeah, yeah. And so, do you still eat to be in ketosis or not?
I don't, but I do stay away from cookies and cereals and processed carbohydrates and refined carbohydrates, and I don't drink juices, and I don't drink sodas, and my diet largely consists of protein first, I do eat a lot of chicken thighs. We eat a lot of steaks and different other cuts of red meat, lots of fish. But we do accompany it generally with either some rice or potatoes. Generally, is where we go. So I would classify my current diet as um, uh, as low carb
Hmm.
rather than no or zero carb. And for a guy of my size, I'm 6'4", 220. I'm pretty lean. I will, when I'm not in like super heavy marathon endurance training protocols, which I am right now, I will eat generally somewhere between 75 and 150 grams of carbohydrates per day.
Okay, all right. Which is not much for someone of your stature.
Correct. It is one of the lower of the macros on the breakdown, right?
Yeah.
So I'm more heavier percentage on fat and protein on a day-to-day basis. Something like
Gotcha.
40, 40, 40, 20.
Now, did you mention that you are training for what, a marathon?
Yeah, I run marathons and I'm training currently for the Indianapolis Marathon, which is in the fall of 2026. And I'm 9 or 10 months out, but we're already in pretty heavy training because I'm trying to qualify for Boston this time. And at my age, at 50, I need to run like a 3 hour 15-minute marathon. And in order to do that, you got to train, for many, 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 many months in advance. You can't just do one of those like 16-week programs that you see advertised on the
Yeah.
internet sometimes.
Yeah, got that completely. Now, a lot of people think that when you do pretty intense physical activity, like training for a marathon or the marathon itself, then you need to carb load. What
Yeah.
do you say to that?
Um, what do I say to that? Well, I say that my training runs in the morning are entirely fasted. I use my improving, like amazing fat oxidation capabilities to fuel my runs. I think that for the recreational hobby athlete, it is entirely possible to have a sustainable training program with low carb diet without needing to do carb loading. I think when you get into like world class levels and such, I don't know that there's very many low carb athletes at the highest levels. But I think for like normal, regular people, if your body is metabolically trained to burn fat for energy, and your intensity levels aren't as extreme as like an elite athlete, that exercise training on a low carb diet is entirely possible. And there's any number of folks, influencers and online people who demonstrate that regularly all the time. And even in my own experience, able to sustain moderate levels of exercise and activity, like reasonable, healthy levels, like all that you need, healthy
Mhm.
levels, like sufficient levels of exercise, on a low carb diet. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you think that we should change the definition of low carb? It's like it feels like there's like the level at which we call it normal and then under which it's considered low carb, where I've always questioned that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the strict definitions are. For me, anything under 150 grams per day, I would classify as being low. I will definitely be in ketosis under 100 or under 75 per day. And I've definitely been at zero, zero carbs per day as well. But I've seen, standard diet recommendations of like 40, 40, 30, with 30 being fat, and you're still, your regular person's still eating a few hundred carbs in that case. So low, I don't know, low to me is like 150 and under, and that's my general cruising normal life. That's about where I stay, is
Yeah.
150 or so. Yeah.
Yeah, and that works for you again with your level of activity and your size, your height, and everything else. Whereas for me, low is under 30
Oh geez. Yeah.
because I'm teeny tiny.
All right, yeah. It's hard to tell with the video camera.
Oh, I'm
I'm six
small.
four, 220 plus with lots of muscle and big. And I've, my at rest calories for the day are 2,400, just
Yeah.
doing nothing, doing
Yeah.
nothing. So I'm like a 3,000 maintenance.
And I bring this up only so that listeners can see that it's not a one size fits all. We're definitely not the same size.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's better to use your percentage macro breakdown rather than the absolute calorie value, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you figure out what your at rest total daily energy expenditure is, what your active energy is. You can figure out what your overall caloric burn is for the day, and then, work your percentages that way.
Totally, totally. And I see, but listeners can't see you, but I can, that behind you you've got Rebel Health. Can you explain what that is?
Sure. Rebel Health Alliance is our high performance medical company, and we provide healthcare for people who are looking for holistic lifestyle, longevity, and optimization oriented healthcare programs. So, the first thing that we're going to do for you is detect and prevent and cure any chronic disease. So, if you come to us with obesity or high blood pressure or your blood sugars are out of whack, your glucose and insulin are out of whack, or inflammation. We're going to reduce all of those and then prevent that stuff from happening, prevent heart attacks, prevent strokes, prevent cardiovascular disease. And then the second thing is that sets us apart is that we want to make you healthier. We're a doctor's office that's going to make you healthier. And the way that we do that is we give everybody a dietitian, a strength coach, a genetic counselor, and a physician who are all geared towards getting you leaner, faster, stronger, and healthier. And then the third thing we do is get you completely dialed in. So we can then optimize your hormones, optimize your thyroid, optimize your energy level, supplement programming, using peptides and other advanced technologies to go from that like 90% up to the 99th percent.
Cool. Wow. And is this online as a service or do people walk
Yeah,
in?
it is. It is a virtual healthcare clinic, and so we're active in all 50 states in the United States, and we have clients and members from all over the country, from Maine to Florida, California, Alaska, and Hawaii, and everywhere in between.
And how did you start up this company? Was it from your own personal experience, your training, or what?
Yeah, one day at about age 46, I woke up thinking I was, quote, doing everything right, kind of going to the gym, watching what I eat a little bit, and I realized though that I felt like crap.
Hmm.
I was 46, sort of midlife and thinking, man, if this is the way I'm going to feel every single day and worse, probably for the rest of my life, I'm in for a bad time. And so I worked with a friend of mine who was sort of in the field, and we did a bunch of tests and diagnostics and learned that I was pre-diabetic. My sugars were completely out of control. I had high levels of inflammation. My C-reactive protein was off the charts. I had a ton of visceral fat content, which is that fat that wraps around your abdomen or is inside your abdomen, wraps around your organs. My blood pressure was so high, I needed medication. My sleep was so screwed up, I needed a CPAP. I had sleep apnea. And, with 6 months of coordinated effort between physicians and trainers and coaches, I was able to get down to 12% body fat, eliminate the visceral fat, lower my blood pressure, reduce inflammation, get my sugars under control, and really get everything dialed in. And I thought to myself, well, hey, if me, a business owner, father of three, midlife, could find life-saving value in what I just did, I'm sure other people would want to do that. And this was 3 or 4 years ago. So this was like right in the earliest part of the whole sort of optimization boom that has now taken place.
Hmm.
And so we went out to the market and said, hey, look, if you want a coordinated team where your doctor knows that you lifting weights and running and eating the right foods are as essential component to your health as any sort of medication that they could offer, and that you want your strength coach to talk to your doctor and your doctor to talk to your dietitian and your genetic counselor to tell everyone about your genes, then come to us and we can do a 100% 360 assessment of your health, and then craft a coordinated plan around each and every area of your health and wellness, and then have the coaching and the support that you need in order to get you from where you are to where you want to go.
Amazing, amazing. And you suggest for people to stop eating sugar?
Well, we 100% stop people or suggest people stop eating the refined sugars and the cakes and the cookies and the snacks and the sodas and all of the easy first wins that can really have life-changing effect. I mean, most people, if they just cut those things out of their lives, are going to have a huge impact on their life.
Mm.
We do have some members that are ketogenic and low carb. We have some that are not. But our goal is to help you find the path that's going to be most sustainable for you. And we're
Yeah.
not dogmatic one way or the other. As long as your blood work is good and your energy is good and your body composition is good and you can keep it up, we support it 100%. So we have a ton of members come in and we use glucose monitors with them, and they really learn very quickly how profound an impact certain foods have on your blood sugar levels. They learn very quickly that taking a walk after you eat is just an incredible way to help clear the blood sugars. You know, the technical term is postprandial ambulation, also known as take a walk after you eat.
Yeah. Thank you for
um,
the translation.
yeah, exactly. And and people learn those lessons really quickly. I use the CGM. I learned that lesson very quickly as well. And the goal for us in everything that we do is sustainable, long term, and in the context of your overall health. So if you find that sticking predominantly to healthy fats and protein, with low to no carbs is the way that you want to eat and the lifestyle that you want to live, and it results in your blood pressure looking good and your arteries looking clear and your blood sugar is looking great, then we're all for it, and we want you to keep up. We're not going to force people one way or the other. It's really just trying to find the thing that works for you.
Yeah, love it. Love it, which is really, what life after sugar is all about as well, Find what works for you, and hopefully eventually you won't need us anymore.
Well, with over 200 episodes, sounds to me like your listeners enjoy listening to you for more than just helping them get off of sugar.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you so much for being part of this whole movement to to empower people to decide what's the best thing for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
You're welcome. And thank you again.
All right. Thanks, Netta.
What a fascinating conversation with John. And his story is a great reminder that there is no one-size-fits-all approach. I mean, I know you can't see us on this podcast, but believe me, John and I are definitely not the same size. And so what matters is finding what works for you so that your diet and lifestyle changes are sustainable. What works for someone else doesn't really matter. You're the one who counts. And this type of personalized, customized approach is exactly what I offer in my 90-day program, the Freedom from Cravings Formula. Because I created this program specifically for women over 50 to help you go deeper into your relationship with food, especially sugar, and also into your relationship with yourself. And so that you can get guidance and support to help you stop emotional eating, break free from sugar cravings, slim down, and feel more in control around food. In the program, you'll get step-by-step guidance and customized support through the 5-step formula that I've developed to help you ditch the shame and embarrassment that you feel every time your emotions make you slip or fall off the wagon, so that you can live your life with more energy and fit into your favorite clothes effortlessly, feel confident in your food choices, and so that you never have to feel like you're on some kind of restrictive diet. By the time you're 50 and over, you've spent decades looking after everybody else. And now it's your turn to take care of yourself. So let's chat about your specific needs and why you want to break free from cravings. Go to sugarcravingsfree.com to learn more about the Freedom from Cravings Formula program and to book a free video call with me to see if the program is a good fit for you. Go to sugarcravingsfree.com. That's it for this week. Keep in touch and see you soon for another episode.